Hey, Patrick.
Hey, Michael J. What do you think about the Team Grand Prix that just took place this past weekend in Toronto?
I think a lot of things, but one of the things that I really thought was kind of an interesting point was in Jennifer Krotz's Black-Red Vehicles deck that made top 4. I hadn't seen this before. Mm-hmm. She had Bomat Courier in the sideboard, right? So Bomat Courier, long-time 4 of main deck and red aggro decks, fallen a little bit out of favor in these black-red decks, but sideboarding Bomat Courier, that's new tech for me.
Ducking under a little bit. I think this is kind of an interesting positioning of this style of red deck where game 1, she's going a little bit, just ever so slightly bigger, right? Not having Bomat Courier or Glint Sleeve Siphoner to die to other people's Chain Whirlers, but the ability to transform into a little bit faster and more aggressive of a build after sideboard when everybody else is used to going even bigger. Sometimes you got to switch it on them.
Yeah, she had like a package, right? So 4 Glint Sleeve Siphoner and 4 Bomat Courier in the sideboard.
Oh, 3.
I'm sorry, yeah, 3, I apologize, Bomat Courier in her sideboard. So she just had almost half her sideboard was just X1 creatures that could potentially generate card advantage.
Right, that she didn't want dying to opposing Chain Whirlers. She's got nothing, in fact, nothing except for a Ballista that if her opponent plays a Mountain on turn 1, she's not necessarily going to be leading with the Naked Ballista.
Yeah, I thought that was kind of cool. But I guess if you're playing against maybe blue-white or something, Glint Sleeve Siphoner is an awesome card out of the sideboard, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and in particular, I think that even some of these Black X decks, there's going to be picture a green-black deck. It may not necessarily be super bending over backwards to want to be loading up with say Fatal Pushes, right? Maybe it depends, right? Heart of Kieran is something. But, it's not like Walking Ballista and Scrap Heap Scrounger are where Fatal Push are at their best. And Bomat Courier and Glint Sleeve Siphoner can really help give you some tempo against an opponent trying to go a little bit bigger.
Yeah, one of the things I found to be super interesting about the evolution of these red decks is, it's always kind of been the case in kind of this era of red aggro decks that people would get bigger. They'd maybe add Glory Bringers. Right? Before they wouldn't play Glory Bringers in the main deck. Maybe Hazoret the Fervent was the biggest card that they had. They might add Glory Bringer. They might add Sand Strangler. Now we have these decks that have got Rekindling Phoenix, Karn, Glory Bringer, lots of 4s and 5s in their main deck. But the thing is, even when they were going bigger last summer, you typically keep in Bomat Courier because it was one of the rare sources of card advantage in your deck, and it was also just this kind of aggressive creature. But Goblin Chainwhirler really seems to have redefined the universe for these red decks, especially in the mirror match.
Yeah, Goblin Chainwhirler is one of the best cards in the format and definitely a defining influence. And I think that it is at the heart of why why we see Bomat Courier and Glint Sleeve Siphoner in the sideboard here, and a variety of other there's a variety of other choices that people are making as a result of wanting to not just get Chain Whirlered into oblivion. For instance, remember all those token decks, the hidden stockpile decks? Remember early in the season, the make 4 Saprolings?
Oh, sure.
What happened?
What happened to Shram's expertise? What happened to any of these white token producers? Maybe other than the one that makes 2/2s for 3 mana.
And what happened to the white-black decks that were defining the format that were using Knight of Malice and Toolcraft Exemplar?
That one still has a pretty good destiny, I think.
Oh, but topically, Morgan McLaughlin's white-black deck also from the top 4.
Yeah, so, but actually, just before we jump to black-white, I just want to close out a little bit on black-red. I think that Chain Whirler really is the center of the black-red strategy, right? Not only is it
definitely
this card that even defines how the red decks are interacting with one another, impacting all these decks around it, but just not a small thing. It crews Heart of Kiran, right? Like it's
right.
It's,
no, that sounds. No, I know exactly what you mean. That sounds like it wouldn't be that big of a deal. It is. That's actually really important, right? Like the white-black deck, History of Benalia is amazing, but it doesn't always crew a Heart of Kiran, right? And it doesn't. You're still happy to play it. It's a fantastic card. But Goblin Chain Whirler is every bit as good as History of Benalia, and it even more conveniently lines up for crewing the heart.
Yeah. All right, so ready to jump over to Morgan McLaughlin's Black-White Vehicles deck. So McLaughlin was on the winning team, and he played, I hate to say like a stock Black-White Vehicles deck, but this is some
pretty stock stuff. I mean, the big twists here include one Lyra Dawnbringer instead of two, and one cast down instead of an one cast down instead of an extra Fatal Push, and I guess a couple Sky Whaler shots in the sideboard. Well,
yeah, I think
who plays Forsaken Sanctuary in the sideboard? That's new tech.
You got to have all the black-white duels you can. Not up to 12, apparently, but extra in the side here. Yeah, I think Sky Whaler's shot's kind of an interesting choice, given the fact that he has access to black mana. So what I
try one.
Yeah. So what I ask about this is these are the two big competing strategies around the shell. I mean, mono green has some elements, the black decks have some elements, but the black-white deck and the black-red deck are both heavy on Heart of Kiran. We have 4 Heart of Kiran here. The black-red deck typically plays 3. Medium to heavy on Walking Ballista, anywhere from 2 to 4 copies in most decks. Very heavy on Scrap Heap Scrounger, 4 copies in almost every deck. And then are typically Karn decks, right? So here, McLaughlin's deck has 4 Karns. We see some number of Karns typically in the black-red decks. So those 4, largely colorless cards are like pillars of these aggro strategies. What is the pull that brings you one direction or the other? Like, I'm not sure why I would want to go white-black instead of black-red because of that. Because, what's special about this that pulls me away from Unlicensed Disintegration, that pulls me away from Chain Whirler?
I think white-black is just a worse black-red, personally.
Yeah.
I think that black-red is a white-black deck that's better in the mirror. And the cards are every bit as good. I mean, the white-black deck's cards are fantastic, but so is the red-black deck. It's like you play a lot of the same cards, but I like Chain Whirler more than History of Benalia. And Toolcraft Exemplar, excellent, excellent card, no question. But Glorybringer, Chandra, Rekindling Phoenix, these are all tippity-top cards themselves. And the red-black deck is so much better in that. I mean, I like the red-black deck in the head-to-head. Unlicensed Disintegration gets the best of Lyra Dawnbringer.
Yeah, that's the exchange that I really.
And it's not like you want Knight of Malice around. Knight of Malice aspires to eat and abrade.
It's atrocious in that head-to-head, right? I mean, yeah. Knight of Malice is fantastic if you're playing against a blue-white deck, I think. Well, actually, I'm not sure about the current breed of blue-white decks. I mean, the blue-white decks that were showing up the first couple of weeks, I think
they've evolved.
Outstanding, but I don't even know if it's great anymore.
Well, you're talking about against Alver 2's 2 Aether Meltdowns, 4 Settle the Wreckage, Blink of an Eye, Commit Memory, Syncopates, Essence Scatter, Fumigate.
I'm saying
that blue-white deck?
I don't know if I'm willing to sacrifice 2 Swamps, 4 Ifnir Deadlands. The idea of taking a damage to cast a Knight of Malice on the second turn is not attractive to me. And sideboarding Forsaken Sanctuary, all these cards are just there to support the fact that there's a 2-drop that is a black pimp. And
okay.
Grip my teeth.
So, dude, we've been seeing a lot of 2-mana artifacts in people's sideboards, but they're usually Sorcerous Spyglass. What's up with Treasure Map X2 in the sideboard of this white-black deck? Sometimes you got to smooth it out a little.
Oh, I mean, it has multiple.
Grind a little bit.
So grinding is a thing, but don't forget this produces multiple artifacts which can help you with Karn. Right, that's a thing, and Morgan's got exceedingly expensive cards like Angel of Sanctions and Sky Sovereign's Council Flagship can kind of get you there, right? I mean, Morgan's also got a Forsaken Sanctuary in the sideboard, so there's the treasure map can help you hit your land drops. B, it actually just makes mana producing cards for you, or I guess token cards. So those things kind of go together with adding an extra land and these exceedingly expensive sideboard cards. Not that there's so many of them, but I think that those are some elements. Plus, in the black-white head-to-head, right? So if you're like black-white against black-white, I think that's probably a resource battle. There's, other than Heart of Kiran, are there so many like just go over the top cards in this head-to-head? Like Lyra Dawnbringer is the closest thing, but both decks have cards like Cast Down, Cast Out, etc. So, or I guess Skywhaler's Shot is a good card against Lyra Dawnbringer.
Yeah.
So I think that would be a great example of a matchup where, give me some treasure map card advantage. That's how I'm gonna overpower my opponent. Where we both have so many aces. Ixalan's Binding is a super interesting card in the head-to-head. If you were playing black-white against black-white, would you side out Ixalan's Binding, or would you like side out a card and then Ixalan's Binding that card out of your opponent? I don't know how I'd approach it.
Ixalan's Binding is obviously not symmetrical. So I don't mind too much the head-to-head. I mean, for instance, if you Ixalan's Binding your opponent's History of Benalia, now you're the only one who's going to get the History of Benalia, and you blank all the rest of them. Or if you Ixalan's Binding their Heart of Kiran, all 4 Heart of Kirans are gone, whereas, you still have yours.
So, a super solid answer to Heart of Kiran, and they're the heavy hitters at the high end, then.
Yeah, are you talking just in terms of you don't know if you want to be spending 4 when so many of the threats cost less?
Yeah, I'm not sure how I'd approach the matchup. It's just very expensive, and I feel like it could be clunky when one of the players could be going just kind of Toolcraft, Scrap Heap Scrounger, even Knight of Malice, right? I don't know. I guess
it's not like you want to get your Ixalan's Binding Invoke the Divined either. That can be a pretty big tempo swing. Destroy it, get back whatever the thing was, plus, gaining 4 life.
Oh, and that's an instant. So if that happens during combat, depending on what was hiding underneath the Ixalan's Binding, that might be an even bigger blowout.
And that's to say nothing of if, whatever it is has a summon that re-triggers. I actually think there's a different enchantment that's been kind of sneaking up on people. The Ether Meltdown, the use of Ether Meltdown. Brad Nelson's white-blue deck didn't play it. He just was, he had one in the sideboard, I guess, but he was doing a little bit more traditional, having extra blink of an eyes. But the version that Oliver played with 2 Aether Meltdown's main deck, it's kind of interesting in a world of Glory Bringers and Rekindling Phoenixes, right? And Knight of Malice, obviously. And Heart of Kiran, for that matter.
Oh, Aether Meltdown is a sweet answer to Rekindling Phoenix, right? Until the point that you're turning your own Aether Meltdown off with a Fumigate, right? It's very, very interesting. It's good on a mana exchange, and it's like this weird situation where you undo their future card advantage passively.
undo their future card advantage passively?
Yeah, like you're just casting this card and they're not getting like their expectation is that they're going to get card advantage whenever you go into a 1-for-1 exchange with that card, right? But the Aether Meltdown doesn't allow for that. It's just like I'm just passively.
I don't understand what you.
Like it just pseudo trades with whatever creature, right? Like that's how this card works. Like it's like imagine like terroring it, because you're not engaging in a lot of combat in this deck. So Aether Meltdown's similar to like terroring a creature. But if you were to terror a Rekindling Phoenix, it would generate card advantage, right? That's not true of the Aether Meltdown.
I see. So you're talking about like if Fumigate's on a Rekindling Phoenix. Got it.
Yeah, so I think that's I'm not sure how to term it. It is itself kind of a reverse card advantage in that kind of card for card matchup, right? Because it undoes the expectation of the other card.
I don't know. I mean, I think it does what it does, and you board out the Fumigates.
I mean, obviously, the centerpiece of all of these blue-white decks is the now stock 4 copies of Teferi, Hero of Dominaria in the main deck. So, I mean, last week we saw some blue-white deck action that at least had a token Gideon to win with, right? It's just Teferi now, right?
Well, there is submission.
Just like grind your will away.
Instead of 1 Gideon, there's 2 new rivulets. To speed it up.
Someday. No,
but I mean, like Oliver's got in his sideboard a Nezahal Primal Tide, 2 Lyra Dawnbringers, a Torrential Gearhulk, and 4 History of Benalia. So there's like some amount of speeding it up.
Yeah, so if he loses game 1, he just side it all in, start racing on turn 3.
And in the words of one of my favorite poet philosophers, if he wins game 1 and loses the match, he's got nobody to blame but himself.
Oh, the immortal Chris Benefell.
So Brad's list, not too different, still, obviously not the Aether Meltdown stuff, but he doesn't even mess around with the Ipnu Rivulets. He's just a purist. You hard lock him with Teferi and you wait. What a heinous design. Brad's not even messing around with as many sideboard options. 3 History of Benalia, 3 Knight of Grace, and 1 Gideon. Why speed it up?
There's so many interesting design choices that have gone into these decks. Like when this kind of, it wasn't even a 4 Teferi, it was typically a 3 Teferi blue-white control archetype broke out the first week of Dominaria. We were seeing as many as 4 copies of Torrential Gearhulk in the main deck. I mean, is Torrential Gearhulk at least still an ace in the mirror match? Right? Like that's.
Why would you play it?
Because it's awesome in the mirror match.
No, it's not. Okay, what's better, Pull from Tomorrow or Torrential Gearhulk?
I think it depends. Like, I think Torrential Gearhulk it gives you something to win with. Like, Pull from Tomorrow just...
Win with? You've got Teferi!
Yeah, but you're on an axis where everybody has access to Teferi. Like, don't you want to start off with a test spell so you can get some mana tapped so that you can maybe resolve Teferi? No?
Torrential Gearhulk is like the worst test spell. What's your plan? To just not care about Cast Out, Seal Away, Settle the Wreckage, Essence Scatter? You just have no concern for any of those cards.
I mean, there's a limited number of disallows, negates, and relevant syncopates that can interact with the Teferi, right? Like that's a lot of pressure on 4 Teferis, isn't it?
It's not on 4 Teferis. It's on 2 Pull from Tomorrows and a Commit to Memory. Because, like, the idea is that eventually you just keep playing your land, saying Drago, 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 Drago. And this is to say nothing of Search for Azcanta taking over. right? But if you have Search for Azcanta or Pull from Tomorrow, you can just completely take over the game with the overwhelming amount of card advantage. And then once you have so many disallows and syncopates and land and commit to memory and negate and then you can use your last Teferi. And that's assuming you don't even want to go through the charade of commit to memory to like get the party started again.
The one strategic commit to memory.
I think the one commit to memory is important, but I think that the 4 Teferis are sufficient. I don't think you need to be scared.
Yeah?
Yeah.
I mean, this is I don't know. This seems to me...
I think Teferi is a messed up Magic card.
Agree. I'm just saying I think this is probably the blue-white mirror match is a mirror match that requires some amount of greater than normal discipline and maybe heads-up practice based on just the descriptions you have here.
I agree. I don't think that adding a Gideon or a Torrential Gearhulk is going to help the mirror. That's just not what the mirror is about. If you want to help the mirror, play a 27th land. Oh, what do you know? They do. That's it. I don't know. Play an extra negate. I guess they don't both. Brad played 27. Oliver's only got 26. He had to make room for, I guess, an extra disallow for the mirror. No, they're obviously playing 4 each.
That's actually
extra cast out. No.
That's actually interesting. Brad's the one with 27 lands, but Oliver's the one with the Ipnu Rivulets, right? Like, you'd kind of think that having the Ipnu Rivulets might be correlated with having the extra land, seeing as they go to the graveyard.
I wouldn't.
No?
That's not really what's going on with Ipnu Rivulet that much.
The game is already in hand, right? At the point that you're sacrificing it to try to kill the opponent, I guess.
Yeah, it's not the biggest rush to... Brad's got a second Memorial to Genius, is what he's got. Which is a little bit of a card draw spell, as you well know. But, I don't know, man. I am ready for this format to go ahead and hop, skip, jump past the Teferi portion of the metagame.
Really? I don't know that it would ever will.
I don't know that it ever will either.
But you were just ready for that to happen. I don't know. So there's only four standard decks in the elimination rounds of this Grand Prix, and we see a black-white deck, a black-red deck. Both of these being kind of those Heart, Walking Ballista, Scrap Heap type decks, and then 2 blue-white control decks. I mean, does this seem like what the constituency of standard is gonna move?
No, I don't. I think that the mono green deck and green splash black is a pretty big chunk of the metagame. I don't think you can just hand wave that portion. So like, I think the whole Steel Leaf Champion thing. It's pretty good when red is going on, and it's not that good against blue-white. But, I mean, those 4, I think, they're kind of the big 4, and variations thereof.
But what about the swamps, Patrick? When will we see the mastery of liches? Is it coming? Is it coming soon?
It depends on when Teferi is ready to be done with the metagame.
That's not a good omen for the mastery of liches.
I'm just keeping it real, man.
Yeah, the fact that Teferi is so often paired with cards like negate or commit to memory.
Yeah, Teferi is a pretty intense amount of pressure too. Like, if they just start trying extra cards, to say nothing of literally just ultimating in a couple turns, because man, is that ultimate hard to beat.
So if you're a main deck, if you're the Teferi deck in game 1, and the worst happens and the opponent actually resolves Lich's Mastery, How do you win the game? How does this go?
How does it go? I don't know. Counter if Lich's Master doesn't do anything in play.
Yeah, but doesn't it win the game?
No, it doesn't do anything when it's in play. Are you saying makes it so that you're unable to lose?
Yeah.
Not necessarily.
I guess the Teferi deck can keep itself from decking. So is it just a stalemate?
It depends. Like, what do you like? What's the what? Like, are you saying like in terms of just because you can't lose the game and the blue-white deck can just lock you out of all permanents and then just wait? And then just wait, and you can't lose the game, they can't lose the game.
Yeah. Does it ever go anywhere?
Well, not game one. So, you know, that's a reason to have a Gideon.
Yeah, I'm thinking like...
But nobody plays Lich's Mastery. Don't play with cards that can beat it.
I'm just thinking, you know, that Gideon would, you know, it would do something for you. Or, I guess it really has to be a damage source, right? Or like a River's Rebuke, but I think that's
I don't
a fancy
think
card to play in.
I wouldn't worry about it. Nobody's gonna play Lich's Mastery. Nobody else. What did you think of the modern decks? Teferi showing up there as well.
Let's see. Where do you want to start?
So, for instance, just looking at the Seth Manfield Jeskai Mage Extraordinaire, his second place Jeskai Control deck, 4 Snapcaster Mage, 2 Teferi Hero of Dominaria in lieu of any Jace the Mind Sculptors, even an Elspeth Sun's Champion in the sideboard.
And so, you know, wow, what do you think about the Baneslayer Angel in the sideboard instead of Lyra Dawnbringer? Demons and Dragons, huh?
Yeah, why would you not? Why would you want Lyra Dawnbringer?
I guess Thundermaw Hellkite and Storm... Well, I guess Stormbreath Dragon is...
Well, why would you not just take a free protection from dragons and demons? What, do you think the legend, it being a legend, is somehow good in the abstract?
No.
And you don't have any angels. So... why not play Baneslayer Angel instead of Lyra Dawnbringer? What if your opponent steals your Lyra Dawnbringer and buffs their Restoration Angel?
I guess stranger things have happened. I guess you would have to cast Supreme Verdict then.
Besides, Baneslayer Angel, man. It's got protection from demons and dragons.
Yeah, it's good. It's, you know, Thundermaw Hellkite and Stormbreath Dragon are both played.
Mm-hmm. Plus, that way your opponent doesn't know how many you have. Not that they know anyway, but, you know.
What do you think about the Elspeth Sun's Champion, though? I can never wrap my head around that card in big format.
Dude, I like that card in big formats as a one-of in the sideboard. I think it's a way to go over the top of fair decks. It's an alternate victory condition. It can win the game in a hurry. It doubles as a wrath. It's a way to particularly double down on strengths that against the way that people take their green X decks against you after sideboarding. I actually like that. Yeah. I can't abide by 0 Jace the Mind Sculptor, but what do I know?
I don't know. As far as I can recall, you've top-8'd a Pro Tour with Jace the Mind Sculptor. I think you might know a little something.
Stuff that happened in the 70s. Who's to tell? Dude, I thought that the Manamorphose Revolution wasn't going to be televised. What's going on? Tyler's got 2 Manamorphose in his Mardu Pyromancer deck. Tyler Blum. 1, 4. I get it. How do you end up at how do you end up at 2?
It's like ice cream, like it just fills in whatever.
You stop at 2 scoops?
No, it just fills in whatever gaps you've got left in your stomach after eating your dinner. It's just...
That's how ice cream works?
Yeah, that's how ice cream works. Tyler's like, 58 cards. That's room for 2 mana Morphose. That's my guess.
I guess. Right. I like Celestial Purge in the sideboard, by the way. I've always liked that card in Modern.
Yeah, it can exile some demons and some dragons, but not others.
So here's the question for you. When are we going to start seeing Karn, Scion of Urza in Modern?
I mean, got to be pretty soon, right? Like if the 5 casting cost planeswalker from the set is doing so well, then the 4 casting cost one is probably gonna do something, do some damage.
Is it? I think Teferi is a stronger card.
Yeah, but it's first of all, Karn can be played in so many different strategies, right? Everybody likes,
which is always the bottleneck in Modern, right? It's not like you care about having the most power. You just want a versatile, medium good thing, right?
Sometimes you do. We were just talking about playing stupor variants in the sideboard recently.
We were talking about playing stupor
variants.
Or were you?
I think we were both talking about it. I think I maybe empathized with it more, but I think that there is some call for wanting to have some kind of generic card advantage-y thing in some decks. But you're right. It's not the kind of card advantage that gets you what you need when you're on the clock, right? You're like, all right, I really need to draw into a duress. Well, if you're going to reveal a duress with the +1 ability, you are not getting it this turn, right? That's how that card works. So maybe it's not going to be super popular, but I gotta figure there are decks that can generate, like, I guess a lot of them will want to have a higher impact card that does a specific thing rather than a card like Karn that does so many different things.
Well, it depends. I think the key to Karn in Modern, you got to be in for the constructs. Like, if you want the XX and another one of it next turn, that's the right, that's the newsletter to subscribe to if you want Karn in your mailbox. I just appreciate that at least in Legacy, they put a little bit of respect on it. Well, Jace the Mind Sculptor mirror match in the finals.
So, but what about like the black-white tokens Modern deck? You don't think that might be a spot where Karn might have some efficacy for exactly the reason that you just stated?
Wait, are you asking me if I don't think that for the reason I just stated I agree with myself?
So you want to be in for the tokens. I feel like Karn is just a generically better card than the 3/4 white guy that attacks and produces tokens. That's also a forecasting cost card. Just a thought on that one.
I mean, I don't 100% love white-black tokens to begin with, and I certainly don't know that I love 3/4 flyers.
No, the 3/4. I can't remember the name. I think it's like a champion of something. It costs like white 2. It's a 3/4. It attacks. It has like battle cry or something, and it makes guys when it attacks.
You're not talking about a Maria Angel, right?
No. Never mind.
You're talking about on the ground?
On the ground. That's a card that's played in black-white tokens. I can't remember the name for...
Okay.
Hero of Bladehold? Is that
you got it, dude. Legacy Leovold.
Legacy Leovold. So...
Angie's the Mind Sculptor, really.
Well, so Leovold, Emissary of Trest, is it's from one of these goofball sets, right? That was never standard legal.
Goofball sets?
Yeah. Like Battle Bond is going to be.
Like Conspiracy Take the Crown?
If you say so. It's a hell of a gnarled mass.
This is just a totally normal design that they could have done in any set.
Yeah. No, that's not true at all.
Each opponent can't draw more than one card each turn. Okay? Whenever you or a permanent you control becomes the target of a spell or ability an opponent controls, you may draw a card.
Yeah, this is pretty good against spells and effects, including those that might kill Leovold.
I just have found that the game doesn't actually get that compelling after Leovold is just doing his thing on the table. But I don't know. I guess I don't play a lot of Commander. Maybe Leovold's like an important force there.
I mean, you got to kind of kill this guy as soon as you can, right? Like, I mean, you give up the small amount of card advantage that you probably lose to get rid of it, but, you can't.
I just think in Commander, this guy's the type of guy who's on the make enemies and your friends will kill you type of time.
But what about in a competitive format like Legacy? How do you feel about him there?
Sure, you can even pitch him to Force a Will. There you go.
Oh wow, that is an important element, and obviously a 3/3 is not super small in this format. There's so many Snapcaster mages, and
So is Nissa Vital Force real? Robert Smith's third place Elves deck. That one kind of surprised me. Nissa Vital Force out of the sideboard.
It's pretty easy to cast for this deck, right? So it only has 18 lands, but 4 of them are Gaia's Cradles, and there's so many mana-producing elves. Is it?
What do you want it for?
I mean, untap a land that you control. What if the land that you are untapping is Gaia's Cradle? Is that a thing you might want to do?
That is not why you're sideboarding in Nissa Vital Force. Come on.
Well, I don't know.
I assume you've got to want it against but a combination of like attrition type of situations and then having a diverse threat that can hit from a different angle.
Well, yeah. I mean, obviously the card is a robust source of card advantage. The emblem is incredibly easy to get to. Once you've got the emblem, every wooded foothills and windswept heath and misty rainforest and verdant catacombs that is in your deck, which is plenty, are just supercharged. And it is a threat. You can start sending lands as a gigantic 5/5 elemental creatures at your opponent, and if your opponent is optimized to kill like a bunch of Finhorn elves, right? Like they've got like fork bolts and gut shots and that kind of stuff. Planeswalker is a completely different angle. It's a heavy hitter, and it doesn't take too many hits from the elemental to win the game. Also, pseudo haste, right? Turn that you play it, you can just start cracking.
Well, it has haste.
Yeah,
the elemental does. Even if you misclick on Moto and choose the land that you already played this turn. Dude, when are we going to see Nissa Vital Force team up with Oath of Teferi?
I don't know. I think that's pretty exciting, though. I think that Oath of Teferi is a card that's going to break out soon, and I think that those guys are probably going to be buddies because I gotta imagine the Spring to Mind portion of Standard is that something's going to bust out there. That card is too good.
Spring to Mind?
Yeah, and it chains into the good 5s. That's the other thing. There's such a great spread of those 5s in the Bant colors. I think Spring to Mind is gonna be the glue that puts those two cards together.
What about Oath of Teferi with Teferi?
I think that's implied. I think the Oath of Teferi is going to be there with lots of Planeswalkers.
Oh, you don't think you can just run one Oath of Teferi for Teferi? Maybe some Karn?
I think that you could do that, but I think that in my imagination, it's going to come next to like the blue-green Nissa maybe. That's
well, how many 5s are you going to play if you have Nissa Vital Force and Oath of Teferi and Teferi himself?
Like 7.
And how many of them are Nissa?
1.
And how many of them are Fumigate?
Pass.
Okay.
Pass. We're going with we're going to settle the Wreckage family. That's I don't know. So
Okay.
You're right. I think that 7 is probably too low, which is why we need to be a Spring to Mind deck. No normal mana curve can
Got it.
so many expensive cards. You need to be hitting your 3s so you can hit your 5s.
Dude, what did you think about Noah Walker's Grixis Delver sideboard? May I call your attention to Dead Gone?
Dead Gone.
Dude, Dead Gone, Abrade, Red Elemental Blast. That's a nice little spread. Diabolic Edict.
I mean, if you need to kill something, you have a variety of ways that you could do so. Or,
Dude, Dead Gone is nice.
Bounce.
I like Dead Gone.
I love Dead Gone. Have you ever Dead Gone off a Bloodbraid Elf?
I have.
Same. It feels good, doesn't it?
Like whenever you're cheating the system, it's like, man. But I don't know. You're not really cheating the system with Dead Gone off Bloodbraid Elf.
It feels good.
I guess. You don't really get the Bloodbraid Elf action as much. I'd rather just Dead Gone. And then, like, I guess it's a tempo thing, I guess. I don't know, man. Is it really so good?
I mean, when I did it, like, the thing that I was Dead Goning would have killed me. It might have been 2020 and, indestructible. That doesn't happen so much anymore.
Dude, where are all the authority of the councils at? Isn't that one of the cards that you wanted to bring out in Standard? There's all these blue-white decks, but why are they not playing it?
Because the red decks aren't vulnerable to it anymore. Like, when that card was awesome, at least awesome in my imagination, the red decks were all, like, 100% haste creatures. Now they're 100% card advantage and value. And, like, the red decks are all, like, Karns and Chandras and slow progressive resistance to removal kind of stuff. Like, there's just no on-crop crashers, and people are sideboarding Bomat couriers. There's a small amount of life gain isn't going to dig you out when your opponent's just sitting there activating Karn and Chandra every turn.
Did you see Benjamin Smith's top 8 list from the Classic? The SCG Classic, the Standard portion. He was playing a Tezzeret, one of those blue-black Tezzeret the Schemer decks that only has one Tezzeret the Schemer because the Antiquities War in Karn Sign of Urza's kind of taking his lunch. But his primary thing is Herald of Anguish. But as a little twist, and by the way, I just want to know, I like the main deck Sorcerer Spyglass in like a variety of decks. So of course, a blue-black improvised deck is a good spot for it. But 2 Merchant's Dockhands is a little exotic.
Well, Merchant's Dockhand. This is a low number of Merchant Dockhands for Standard decks that play Merchant's Dockhand. For one.
2 is not the most common number. That's true.
I mean, 0 is the most common number, but 4 have been. 4 has been a lot of 4 recently. Look, this card's got a lot going for it. If you're in the market for this kind of card, it costs 1, right? So I think that's its primary pull. Because I don't know. I have never actually seen
it lives through a chain whirl.
It does. It does do that. And it might do this activated ability someday. I don't know. That seems like...
No, the activated ability is okay. It's a little slow.
That seems like...
My biggest problem with it is that once you play the Merchant's Dockhand, you're making your opponent's fatal pushes and stuff so much better. And, like, I don't mind the Merchant's Dockhand when you're playing, like, 25 other creatures or something. It's just that when you have just 4 Herald of Anguish and 2 Merchant's Dockhand... Yeah, but I don't know. I do wonder, though. This one Sentinel Totem in the sideboard is pretty dope. Conley Woods, brewer extraordinaire. He's telling me the Sentinel Totem is just, that's what's popping.
Yeah.
That's what's popping.
Well, I think the Dockhand, first of all, I agree with everything you said about it. The amount of Dockhands, what it does with fatal pushes. But I think it's unrealistic to think that the opponent's not going to get some amount of money with fatal push. You're going to Karn eventually, right? Or Tezzeret can even put you in a situation where
but like slowing you down early, like fatal push is just not that good against servo schematic compared to Merchant Stockhand.
I can't disagree with you. It just seems like
it would be weird to disagree with me in that spot. Are you kidding?
Yeah, it's all I'm saying is Fatal Push is going to get its money. I don't know. Okay. But if I were going for a payoff in these colors and an artifact-heavy theme, I don't know that I'd lean on the Dockhand. I mean, is 4 Sorceress Spyglass heresy? Is that card's pretty good.
It's not heresy. Heresy is like it's like being like profane towards God.
Yeah.
Or the church at the very least.
So it's not heresy.
Unlike playing Avened Wind Guide, Andy Logan's blue-white gift deck had an Avened Wind Guide for okay, that's a new one of the weekend. Aven Wind Guide, that's the 2/3 flying vigilance. Creature tokens you control have flying and vigilance with Embalm 6.
Well, all I can say is, here's a deck. He's got Chart of Course. He's got Strategic Planning. Rebuy. Come get some flying vigilance.
You just want to discard it and get the value?
I don't know why else it would be there.
To make your tokens fly. You don't want your token to fly?
I don't know. I feel like when I play against this deck, either I shut down their apparatus or I don't. And when I don't shut down their apparatus, they have like 400 power, and they're gaining life, and I'm getting smashed in the face and whatever. Whether or not the creatures have flying is creatures, not creatures. That's not what matters to me typically. On the other side, right? But if I shut down their apparatus, then all their cards stink anyway. But like with Champion of Wits or something, I think that there's a plausible like plan D here with the Embalm.
All right, I got exactly one piece left. There's just one little piece of technology that we haven't seen in a while. This was over at the SCG Modern Open. 3rd place, Peter Tragos, playing green-white hexproof with 1 copy of Triclopean Sight. Bam! Headshot!
Wow. That is really like...
Exotic.
It's just like a bloodbath waiting to happen, right? So, Triclopean Sight, it untaps the creature at instant speed.
Oh, yeah. And if your creature's just got, like, Spirit Link on it, ooh, boy!
Well...
This card is dope.
I mean... Would you really rather have it than...
Life didn't work so great. Tried to play Dredge, it's a jailer hate. Ghostly prison waiting for my untapped phase. Your core trapped in amber stasis state. Lost a lot of friends, got left behind. Had to find a way not to lose my mind. Trapped in a vault with nothing but time. Parents and my friends were the key to find. Magic gave me purpose and drive. The game